Joining me now is Orlando Bowen, motivational speaker, former professional football player, and the CEO of Gameday Training and Consulting. Orlando, I'm so excited that we get to have this time together for a big catch-up.
I'm not a betting person, but if I were, I would bet that I'm more excited than you are.
Oh, yeah, that's so cool. I love it. I usually feel more excited, I think, than the best, but that means a lot to me.
I got you.
Oh,
I got
good.
you.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
You know, for our viewers who are just getting to know you today, but you've been on our program before, but for those just getting to know you right now, did you grow up in a faith family?
Yeah, I did. I grew up, our family was faith-filled. Parents, I was active in the church growing up. In the choir, my mom told me I was an amazing singer. I wasn't, but that's what moms do sometimes. I was always connected. But I do feel like there's a point in our journeys where it has to become personal. You got to own it, because it's not enough to just be in the space. That personal relationship with Jesus is everything.
It is, you're right. I mean, often incredibly in a faith family, you grow up and there's so many seeds planted, but it comes to a place where you have to make that decision to follow Jesus yourself.
Absolutely.
And you did have a moment like that.
Yeah.
Probably a few, but one significant moment.
Yeah, I had a moment, I think back to my freshman year at Northern Illinois University, home of the Huskies. Shout out the Huskies. When I started as a true freshman at linebacker, then I got injured going into my second year. And when we ended up at a specialist, and the trainer that brought me there, and the doctor comes in and he says, "Do you have any aspirations of playing football beyond college, like in the pros?" And I said, "Well, no guarantees, right? But if I get the chance, I'd love to." And he said, "Bad news, you're probably never going to play football again.
Oh, wow.
You have a stress fracture in your back, and you have two options. We'll either heat the bones up and fuse them together, do a spinal fusion, or we'll put you in a plastic cast or a corset that will go from your waist to just underneath your neck, and you'll have to wear that for 3 months and then reevaluate after that."
Oh, wow.
And I remember the trainer that I was with she broke down. She started crying because there was so much in terms of expectations of what I was going to do after being a starter as a freshman. And I remember saying, "It's going to be okay." But when I went back to my dorm room, I was really searching, and I cried out. I said, "God, if I could make a difference or impact in one life through this game of football, then please let me play again. But if this is the road and it's over, then so be it." So I did the plastic cast, the corset, for 3 months.
That's so hard.
Prayed. Yeah, it was a challenge. It had 2 straps at the side so I could take it off and shower. But it kept me in a very, good posture as I walked around and sat down. And I remember folks saying, "Wow, he's got some really good posture." They didn't know I was actually strapped in. Nonetheless, I was able to come back and play again, and ended up starting for the next 3 years, and then got a chance to go pro and play in the Canadian Football League.
That's incredible. Orlando, I can't even imagine being in a cast for 3 months. In that journey, in that experience, you ended up, as you said, you ended up going pro. So one day you get you've graduated university and you're working sort of in an IT field, right? But you get a call from the Argos. And it's like, I mean, that was probably pretty shocking.
Yeah,
They're like, come try out.
Well, I was really passionate about community service at the time, especially because of some of the things I saw happening in community in Chicago, with young people making decisions that took their life down a path, right?
It's a dangerous city, isn't it?
Yeah, it can be. There's a lot of love, and some of the things that the challenges are highlighted in the media. So there's a lot of amazing things happening, and there are challenges also. And I remember, having the conversation with Mr. Pinball Clemens, with whom many of you are familiar. I had one question for him, right? Because football, as special as it was, as important as it was, what was more important for me was service. And can I make a difference? So that's what I asked. Can I make a difference if I make the team? And he said, "If you make this team, you and I will go out and serve." And I made the team, and we did go out and serve, and we've been serving ever since. But during that time of service, and I played with the Argos, and then I ended up signing with the Ticats. The service part continued, but there were some challenges along the way also.
Yeah, that's right. And when you talk about service, so prior to your time as a football player professionally, and also during that earlier season of your football career, you were serving in all different ways. So serving youth, you were helping those who are struggling with homelessness, but you're also educating different people about the impact of racism and the reality of it.
Absolutely.
Tell us a bit more about that.
I was training police in racial sensitivity. I was doing a lot of work with sick kids and homeless youth, refugee families, like you mentioned, and really helping people understand the power of us, right? And really realizing there's no us and them, there's only us. So when we look at each other through a lens of Ubuntu, which is a word rooted in the Zulu language that means I am because we are.
Oh, I love that.
When we look at the world through that lens, then we just see connection. We see people as for the beauty that God has created them with, right? And we see that that's us over there as it is us right here. So that was what, I was passionate about, still am incredibly passionate about it, helping people see people.
Yeah, that's right. And, as that stage of your life's unfolding, you played for the Argos, then you're over at the Ticats, and your wife and you've already had one child, and she's pregnant with your second. And suddenly everything you're building comes crashing down. Because somebody didn't take to heart, the idea of community and caring and loving for others.
Right. So I was, as you mentioned, Sky was pregnant with our second. We had our eldest, Dante. He was 18 months old, and I was assaulted, beaten, skin on my head split, and just in the moment, like now looking back, I could say feeling like I was going to die. In the moment, I knew that I was going to die, and all I could think was, God, not like this, God. Like, it didn't make any sense. The long story short, the two gentlemen that I was assaulted by were two corrupt undercover police officers who happened to work for the police service that I trained in racial sensitivity, and I was their spokesperson. And when they realized that I was that guy, a huge cover-up began where I was taken to jail. They went back to the scene where my vehicle was. They planted drugs by my car, and they charged me with assault and possession of a controlled substance. So I went from being an athlete, actively involved in community, serving, playing football, taking care of my family, to now being concussed, unable to pass my physicals, losing my job as an athlete, and now facing prison time. Through that journey, all I could think was, but God, right? Because I remember being in the courtroom and just praying, because again, it didn't make any sense. Like, how am I even here? Like, what is happening right now?
Well, weren't you on the way to doing a community building event with your team? Well, they approached you and really they were trying to solicit, buying drugs off of you and this whole process of whatever they were trying to do.
Right.
But you were, this was so unexpected. You were literally like walking to do something that was life-giving and good for others. And you just stopped.
So we were going out to celebrate our contract signing and just, again, reaffirm our commitment to serving in community. That's just who we are. That's what we're about. So, journeying through this and having this experience, and now, again, I'm facing jail time for something that everybody involved knows that I didn't do. But still, we have to figure it out, and we have to seek legal representation. And it was hard. And I remember being in the courtroom and the officer taking the oath to tell the truth, and then like looking at me and then looking at the judge and saying, Your Honor, he's 6'2", 230 pounds, and he's actually trained to hurt people. And I remember thinking, wait, what? And then he said, I've never been in such fear for my life in my 17 years of service. And I thought, okay, the words of my grandma came back to me when she used to always say, hurt people. When they don't know what to do with their pain, they hurt other people. Right. And in that moment, I felt this immense sorrow for what could have possibly led him to be able to do that to an innocent human being. Right? Because I said, I don't know what kind of pain he must have experienced to allow him that capacity. And in that moment, I started to pray for him. I started to pray for him to get the healing from whatever he's been through and for the truth to come out. And then long story, we got 6 weeks before the verdict, and the arresting officers in my case were, one of the officers was himself arrested for trafficking cocaine. They found 17 kilos of cocaine at his house. He ended up being arrested, charged, convicted, and sentenced to go to prison. And when he was sentenced, people came and they said, let's celebrate Orlando for what they did to you. I was acquitted. And they're like, good, we hope he rots in jail. Let's celebrate. I said, we're not celebrating. I'm not celebrating that. Because that's a father being taken out of his house. I'm not celebrating someone else's pain. And I wrote a letter of forgiveness to the officers that, like, as we journeyed through the court process, because I couldn't speak in court, I wrote down what I would say if I could actually speak. And it was a letter of gratitude and forgiveness.
Orlando, it's so impactful and moving to listen to you speak, because I think about the depth of the injustice of what you went through, and then even to understand that you're sitting in the courtroom praying for the people who've hurt you so badly, and those who are then then one man is convicted for other crimes he's actually done, and you're saying, I'm not going to take joy in the brokenness and failure of other human beings, because we know that at the root of what they're doing is sin.
Right.
It's just these choices towards evil.
Right.
And you write this letter, which, it's very moving, and you ended up sending this to the officers, and you have it with you today.
Yeah.
And you're open to sharing some of it.
Yeah, I will share an excerpt from it for sure.
And then, the impact of sending this letter for you after. We'll talk about that.
Yeah.
But if you're okay to share some of it.
Yeah, I will read some of it. In it I say, to my brothers, life is a game and we can win this thing. I come to you humbled and broken, yet with a calming peace. I apologize for blaming you for my feelings of anger and disappointment towards you, towards life, and towards the system during this ordeal. I figured it had happened for a reason, and that reason will be revealed in time, but I began feeling sad and angry, but that's not who I am. This may sound strange, but in this game of life, we're actually on the same team. So I want to courageously express the fact that I'm thankful, grateful, and forever in debt to you for this experience, because it's forever changed my life. I love you guys unconditionally and embrace you with every fiber of my being. So please know that you're forgiven 100% and loved 99%. I'm still working on that last 1%.
That's okay.
Today. But through this experience, we have a tremendous opportunity to change other people's perspectives. So I'm grateful for that, and I appreciate that. So please know that there's someone out there that cares about you, loves you, and wants the best for you and your families. I want you to know I play this game of life for you. I remember when I wrote the letter, and people said, how could you thank somebody that almost killed you? How could you say you're grateful? How could you say you forgive them? And for me, forgiveness, when I started writing the letter, it was for their ears. And as I was writing it, I realized it was for our hearts, right? Because there's things that sometimes we need to let go of, right? And we need to go to the cross. We need to ask for forgiveness. And sometimes we need to forgive ourselves. And forgiveness is not saying that what happens okay, or that I need to turn the other proverbial cheek, or that I need to renew some sort of relationship with them. That's not, forgiveness isn't any of those things for me. For me, it's letting go of the emotion tied and trapped in that moment that wouldn't allow me to sit present here with you and see the gift that you are and the gift that you bring. And you bless so many, the entire team here, 100 Huntley Street, blesses so many people's lives and makes a difference. I wouldn't be able to see that had I held on to the anger and the resentment and the things, the emotion of the moment. Right. So forgiveness is a gift for all of us.
Yeah, it is. Orlando, so it's so moving and powerful to listen to what you're sharing. And now, you are such a leader in society in so many different ways. And it's interesting because it comes full circle to where you were asking God, how are you going to use me, right? Like, do you want to use me through football back in university when you were injured?
Right.
But it's like, here's this other injury that you don't control at all. This is totally life-changing. And now God is using you mightily to be a voice of hope and reconciliation, and that we can forgive no matter what.
Absolutely.
But, and it's for us.
Yes.
It's our freedom.
Yes.
And the ripple effect, I think about those receiving that letter, and even generationally, what could shift for their family lines.
Right. And that was the thing, too, and you touched on a very powerful point. And that my prayer when I got hurt, when they said your career is done, was if I could make a difference in one life through football, then let me play again. And I was able to play again. I was blessed with that opportunity. So when the assault happened, one of the things in my mind was, is this it? Like, is this the way that I'll make a difference through this? Because otherwise it doesn't, it makes no sense.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't make sense. And I always say the dots connect in hindsight. 20/20 is when you look in the rearview mirror, right? A lot of the times we're in and you may find yourself in the thick of something and you're trying to figure out and you feel like you don't know where to turn and none of this makes sense. Sometimes it doesn't make sense in the moment, and it's being okay with that. It's hard, but it's being okay and trusting that the dots will connect in hindsight as you look back. So that's
right. And Orlando, for our viewers watching right now who are saying, I'm in a season where I don't understand what's happening, the dots are not connecting, your word of encouragement is to keep the faith, keep hope, stay connected to God.
Absolutely. For us, it was the only way. The only way. There's so much power in prayer. prayer will make 1 + 2 = 6, don't ask. You know what I'm saying? Don't ask. It just is, right? So, and you just rest in the fact that God's got you. Yeah. Like, even when it doesn't matter how bleak it looks and what's going on, it's like, all right, God, come on, you called us to this thing.
Yeah.
We know that anything is possible through you. Yeah. So let's go.
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what God's going to do, how he's going to work, how it's going to manifest to his glory through the challenges that we're experiencing, because they're not just for us.
No.
Right? They're for us to use and to share and to bless other people with perspective as they navigate their own challenges, as they face things where folks are like, man, you might as well, give up. Right? No, you don't have to give up, because you know something, right? You see our eyes are sparkling. I see our eyes sparkling. You know something, and you have something in you that no one could tell you any different, because you know it. Right? So by virtue of how you show up, your example allows other people to feel that presence and step into that presence until they know it for themselves.
Oh, that's so good, Orlando. Thank you. Yeah. So encouraging having you with us right now. And if that word encouraged you and you want to just step into what's possible and step into what God can do in your life, call our prayer partners. Yeah. They can pray with you right now in this moment and tonight, whenever you need them. 365 days a year. Call 1-866-273-4444.